What up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday thing. This thing that we do every Thursday. Even when I forget, I still pretend we're doing it Thursday. But yeah, we're here. We're doing this thing. As usual, I am joined by my partner in crime, Warranty, except I'm not, because we had a miscommunication about time. So we are not going to have Warranty here this time. And I think our live casts are going to start getting bumped to 5 because of this constant miscommunication between him and myself. I love him to pieces and I want him to be here. So we're going to see if we can't figure that out. Producer Jordan is still busted. He's laid up in bed. And so we don't have a producer Jordan right now. But he's getting there and he's getting better, which is good to hear. And Randy, who is very excited about this episode because he is a swapped GC guy himself. So the person we have on this episode is very important to him. And Randy does all of our thumbnails and he's helping us with some new design stuff. And we love having Randy around. So thank you, Randy. This week was supposed to be what we did last week. We had a plan. I totally screwed it up, but I am super stoked that he made some time to come back this week and have this conversation because I am very excited. So we have Brian from IWire. Brian, how you doing, bud?
I am lovely. And even though it's not last week, it's this week, I'm still happy to be here.
Sick, man. So is that Brian with an I or Brian with a Y? We had a whole conversation about that.
Yeah, if anybody missed it, yeah. So we're trying to determine, is the Y the newer version of Brian with an I? Does I represent the fact that I'm old? And Y means you're younger? I don't know how that works.
Well. If you remember back in like elementary school, I guarantee your name got misspelled as brain all the time. Maybe it was trying to fix that problem.
It couldn't fix that problem, but yet here we are. We'll be all right. It may define me in some way. We'll see.
So you and your company are OGs. It is the only way of putting it and kind of the go-to for Subaru swaps. So those who are listening overseas will not understand how important you are to us here in the States. Quite as
hopefully I'm still sorry to interrupt. I hope I'm still important to everybody.
You absolutely are.
Given the current scenario of that one.
Yes. No, so we'll get into it, but
yeah.
Where most of us OGs know you are so ungodly important to us.
I much appreciate it.
And reason for that is we did not get turbo GC8s here in the States. And your stuff ventured into other stuff, but really where you came into the you became a voice within the community as far as at least I know is we didn't get turbo GCs in the States when we got the turbo WRX here. When the O2 WRX, people wanted to put that motor into the older chassis. We all wanted our Colin McRae dreams or to make our 2.5 RSs actually like go as fast as they looked. And you were the guy.
Yeah, I was part of a crew that of people. I can't take all the credit. That wouldn't be fair. Because I came in.
Yep.
I came in and it already had started. Definitely early on. But I would be a disservice to anybody who was doing it before I did or while I did it.
So you are not IWire. You are a part of IWire. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And this if you want to go back to the start, that's pre the existence of IWire is me being part of the swap GC kind of culture.
Yeah, so the swap bros, and you were one of those cats. So, yeah. So I guess let's talk about IWire as a company. Well, let's talk about yourself first. When did you first get into Subarus in general, and what kind of got you really community oriented?
Sure. Yeah, my interest in cars in general, probably most people my age, is Gran Turismo, and having an opportunity to see these things that you never knew existed.
Yep.
Back in the late '90s, early 2000s. And obviously the coolest car, in my opinion, in the game was the Subaru. So after that, I knew that that's what I wanted. It wasn't until 2003 and 4 that I would have gotten into it, because I would have been senior in high school and got my first car, which would have been a 2004 Impreza, not a GC, thanks to my very conscious parents that wanted something reliable. And I didn't know how to work on cars, so I wasn't going to be able to do that. And neither of them did either. So um, due to their thoughtfulness, that's the compromise that we came across. So I had an '04 RS first.
Okay.
There was a company down the street from where I lived that did swaps. I wanted a GC really bad, but that's not what I had. So I made friends with them, and eventually they hired me to basically help do stuff. I didn't know anything about how to work on cars, so learned everything early on from there. Eventually sold the '04 for the '98 that I have, the OG RSTI as we call it.
Yep.
Still have that one. And yeah, so learned, was part of a swap culture there through what we were talking about earlier, Naziok and RS25. Number of people that I met in that community, still good friends with. It's pretty amazing, honestly. The friend group I've been lucky enough to come across as a byproduct of this car, and not only just people in person that I've met that were local, but all of the internet people that would consider friends, though I've never seen their face.
Yep.
That's the culture that was sort of ingrained at that time.
That's a really good way of putting it too. Like I've said many times, almost everything good in my life uh came from me making a bad financial decision back in 2002 to buy a WRX.
Yeah,
It,
exactly.
that community was
Exactly.
just different, and it's it has changed. Don't get me wrong, but you know those relationships today, that I'm still building, are due to that one bad financial decision way back in the day. It's unreal how it snowballed into this. Now I get
Yeah,
to talk to
for
you.
sure.
You're like a legend to me. So this is
Oh,
sick.
that's nice. That's very kind of you. Yeah. So beyond that, I did that for a few years. Kind of learned the ins and the outs, along with running a business and all the other things that kind of come with being a part of a car shop. I left in 2008, and so that's when IWire was started. It really, I think probably typical for a lot of car shop owners, kind of came out of just because this is what I knew how to do.
Yep.
Really wasn't intending to start a car business. This just kind of happened. So it started with, I had, as a byproduct of the sort of forum, people knew me as on the forums as a person outside of the business I used to work for. So I was able to leverage that to say, hey, I can do this harness merges for you, on the side for some extra cash. I just looked at it as, pay my bills while I finish school.
Sure.
It wasn't started with, big aspirations, honestly. I kind of I took the 8-year plan to get done with school, and the last 4, I was kind of looking for something that would be the replacement for this. Came to the end of school after 4 years and went, this is this. I'm hiring an employee and trying to not have them start in my parents' garage. Hey, there's a picture. That's my parents' garage.
Yeah.
I can see Randy there. That might even be his harness.
That is, I think that is his harness.
Oh
which
yeah,
he's still
224.
rocking.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So shout out to Randy. Yeah, one of the early OG guys to put his trust in myself, and then and help us to get to where we are now. So yeah, so like I said, by the time I
Yep.
graduated school, I was hiring my first employee, first shop. This was 2012 ish.
Sure.
Like I said, it was no it wasn't coming out like a rocket ship, that's for sure. Like it was built organically on word of mouth, continuing through the the forums and then Facebook and other things as those platforms developed. We got to the point where the sort of turnover to the part where needing employee was not just merges, but we started adding on other things. So
Yep.
we were building complete harnesses for the Factory 5 kit cars for a while there.
That's cool.
We would build those things, headlights to taillights. I still look back and go, wow, those were pretty impressive, honestly. Kind of shocked we did it to some degree. Those were fully functioning cars, cruise control, ABS, power windows and locks. Those were AC. Those were fully functioning cars that we were building on tables. And then, kind of worked our way into some other service work, stuff like that. But really, as it continued to grow, the challenge was, how do we scale as a business and help as many people as possible? And when you do one-off work every time, that becomes harder.
Yeah.
And we want to help as many people as humanly possible with these cars. We love them. We love the community. We want to keep them on the road. We want to make them faster and more fun. And eventually, kind of quick and dirty, it kind of came to the point where, that service work was harder for us to execute, given all the other stuff that we're doing now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I look back and people like Randy and all the other, swap customers, I don't take anything for granted in that their support is why we exist in the form factor that we do now. It doesn't work without that. It's just business changes. And it's a tough one when you have to make those hard decisions. So that's sort of leaning into the direction that we're going now, which is much more product based.
So that had to have been a rough decision though, because your community, a lot of people knew you guys for being the people for swaps. Now there's a lot of there's shops and stuff that still do harness merges and things out there. So it's not like it's impossible to get that service done anymore, but I'm sure that had to have been a little rough for you guys to step back. I know here at IAG, it happened just before I started working here, but they stopped doing service work here at all, like bringing just normal customers in, oil changes, whatever. They stopped doing that. And it was a hard decision for them to make. And actually sometimes they still really do miss that here, but decisions had to be made. We turned into more of a product manufacturer than, a shop. And and you guys were, from the sounds of it, kind of the same situation where you had to go, man, like how because building those or merging those harnesses, that's incredibly labor intensive. There's a lot to it. And at a certain point, you got to ask, am I really doing justice even to the customer at this point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That for us was definitely one of those cases, kind of head versus heart scenarios. Honestly, we kept it in play as long as we did because I felt a personal obligation effectively to the community for it, and it means a lot to us. We don't want to see cars sitting on the in their driveways not getting done because of something that we had to make a decision to do. That's the last thing we want.
Oh, that's the worst.
And it sucks. But to your point, we weren't I tell people all the time that ask, we've never been the only ones to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely owned the market. It'd be a lie to say we didn't, but at the same time,
you the first word in everybody would just go to IWire. Like, why are we even talking about this?
Right. And like I said, that reputation is something that we're very proud of. And making that change was extremely difficult decision to make because we knew that the repercussions of that. But I think with all things, as it settles out, other people are going to pop their head up and offer a solution. We still will sell our project harnesses, the harnesses that we use to do the harness merges. So for like an 02 to 05 WRX or, JDM WRX STI, that era, 04 to 06 STI, we still sell the project harness for those applications if you want to do it yourself or a guy that is willing to help you out. Those are a nice improvement over using the original used bulkhead harness because, you're talking something that's 20 plus years old now, been through the ringer, and the parts that you care about the most are the ones in the engine bay. And the project harness replaces all of that. Not to mention, you don't have to strip a harness down. It's clean. It's got added sleeving. It's extended. It's sort of pre-done to some degree. We did some work to make our lives easier. So anybody who buys that is getting the same advantage to do it. So we wanted to make sure we did our best to try to leave something there to help that happen, because as soon as you get to the turbo platform, we're here. We're still here.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
And one of the things I found myself in the past few years sending lots of people to you, it's something that I think we should have on our website. And if you're listening and you're a vendor or a shop or something like this, if you don't have this ready to go, you're screwing up. Is you guys' fuel pump hardwire kits. They're awesome.
Love it.
They're so good. And that's another one of those things, dude, just go get the IWire one. Like, stop talking. Just go get the IWire one. Be done with it. So much easier. It just works. I can't stress it enough. And it's one of those things that I'd like to keep here. And I don't know if that's going to happen in the future or not, but it's something we definitely want to make happen. But I guarantee you've got a pretty solid amount of people grabbing stuff off your site, because I just throw them the link to your site. So it happens all the time.
No, I mean, we sincerely appreciate it that is how most of our business comes is people saying, I had a great experience with this thing. Go get your own. Don't mess around. And Hardwire Kit, we spent a lot of time getting to that where it is now and sort of making decisions along the way. And it's one of those things like I feel like many things that we do, to call it a Hardwire Kit is kind of a injustice to it to some degree, because there's competitors out there that are calling it a Hardwire Kit, but what you're getting is a relay and a fuse and some wire.
Yes.
That's not the same thing as what we're providing you a complete solution. Top to bottom, start to finish, everything, stupid simple install. The hardest part is taking the interior out with most of these things, honestly.
Yeah.
And then it works extremely well. It's so reliable. It's expandable. So if you start with a single pump and you add a secondary pump and a radium hanger later, you can just buy the add-on part. You don't have to buy the whole kit again. So we try to make it, as user-friendly, minimize the costs where we can, but also deliver you the highest quality thing that we know is going to last as long as you drive that car.
Which is, again, you can tell when you're holding on to that product. It is super solid. It's just
one of our biggest challenges is describing that, right? If you can't touch and feel it, getting your hands on it is a different thing than all of the pictures and videos that we could ever provide.
Most good shops just order up you guys's kits, because it's not only is it easier on their part, the price isn't enough in the end for them to even try to make it themselves. It's not worth it. And it's when you can show that quality to somebody once it's in their car, they appreciate that too. But it's hard to explain that until they actually see it or feel it or really have an understanding of why it's done that way.
Yeah, we actually had that issue early on with the 818 harnesses, because they were premium price. Obviously, you're building an entire car harness, and people would kind of balk at it because that car was intended to be built cheap, though never one ever did. But it wasn't until people opened up that box for the first time and got this entire car harness and went, oh, this is what I paid for.
Oh,
okay, I get it now.
Yeah, like
and I feel like that tends to be a lot of the things that people get from us, because I get it. You spent thousands of dollars on turbos and injectors and everything else, and then we come along and say, hey, here's a few more bucks for this, and you're kind of like, is this, and until you get it in your hands, that value proposition is can be difficult. But once again, I firmly stand behind and promise that if you pull the trigger, you will get that box, and you will have that. I would hope you would have that reaction to say this was worth it.
Yep. And then like Mary from All-Wheel Drive Tuning's in the chat right now, and she's like, "Yeah, you said I'm a good shop. They use a bunch of IWire stuff. I know they do."
Yeah, awesome. But love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's hard to explain, but it's the one thing I've always said is, the best parts are usually the ones you don't realize are just working and you forget about.
Yeah, that's kind of our gift and a curse, right?
Yeah.
We know that we've done our job when you install it, you don't see it, and you don't think about it, but it's doing its thing. Not great advertising, but the reality is that's when we know we've done a good job.
Another company I work with that's a lot like that is Fuel Lab.
Yeah.
I fought forever with other companies' surge tanks that we aren't going to mention their name. But other companies' surge tanks with all sorts of problems. And I stick this Fuel Lab brushless surge tank in there, and it just works.
Yep.
And I don't even think about it. I always have fuel. I never have fuel starvation. It just does its job. And honestly, it doesn't get enough praise because I'm looking at people all over the place around me having all sorts of fueling issues. And it's one of the things I never deal with.
Right.
It just
and
works,
you're
when it gets forgotten.
You with your brushless, you're tying that into Boogie with the standalone, right?
Yep. But
so you have the control over that.
I have control over that, but they also sell this fuel pressure regulator you could run it to also that can control it that way. And or there are always other options. Fun fuel pump kits that I think people should maybe make an attempt of using. Especially if you're going to be using it on a stock ECU, because we in our community are very blessed with companies like Cobb and Accutech, where we have absurd control over our OEM ECUs, but sometimes you have to find entertaining ways to get them to realize certain things. I could see that being I could see that working out really well too. So.
Yeah, in terms of fueling, we've kind of been watching the brushless side of things. The controller factor is a bit of a challenge because, like you noted, stock ECU, which is generally what we cater to. Obviously, anything that we make probably will work with a standalone ECU, but kind of when we're designing things, we generally are keeping the stock ECU at the forefront. So the challenge with the brushless is control over it on a stock ECU. We'll probably talk about some more of this stuff later, but those are kinds of things that we think about as we're moving forward.
Just throwing it out there. I'm not trying to force any conversations, but I think a conversation should be had. Their controller's built into the top of that. So literally it's just power ground signal. So if you made something fun, plug and play, it would be very easy for me to sell with those kits. I'm just throwing it out there.
I agree. Yeah, the thing that I've noticed, and like I said, I'm not 100% up on exactly, depending on the company and the controller setup. So, if I'm incorrect, I'm okay with that.
Hey,
but the last I checked is that the PWM signal output from the ECU doesn't allow for. It might do on high low or on off, but that's kind of it. And until we can get a little more OEM low, medium, and high, I'm always a little hesitant because most cars don't have the mechanical components to handle a pump, full blast at it. When you're not under, not in boost.
The way I see it though is if you were putting something like that in your car, I would be astounded if you didn't have an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator.
Well, to your point, sure. But even then, I think it's the return side is usually the issue that overruns the regulator. And so if you're running it at if let's say you opted, you're just running a standard brush pump. It's, call it a 450 or
Sure.
something, and you have it set to just on off, and you took the controller out. You didn't, because our kit keeps the controller in play.
Yeah.
So you said, so key on, pump on, at full blast. You're gonna have to find a way around a problem of overrunning the regulator with the amount of fuel that you are chucking at the engine.
You and I
when
are
you
going to
don't
have to have
need
a
it.
whole conversation about this, because I believe a kit could exist for this.
Sure.
There are
And the
more.
question is it a mechanical or an electrical solution? I mean, obviously our lens is electrical.
Mhm.
So I think we can do this from an electrical component side, to try to blend some of these higher flow pumps in these other scenarios, while not having to, while keeping the mechanical side to kind of where it is now,
Sure.
without having to work around a problem that you've created as a byproduct of cheating the electrical system in a way that, we wouldn't generally recommend.
I've got one more kind of, this is more of an IAG based question that I asked you a while ago, and I get
Sure.
asked this a lot.
Yeah.
And I will probably clip this when we talk about it. But
Okay.
we have our TGV housings that use the OEM motors. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of the motors themselves changed in 07. And so it's 07
Right.
newer all have the same type of motor, but 06 and prior, they're different.
Mhm.
And I get this probably once a week. Hey, is there any way that you can like rewire to use the new motors in the old car, or some variation of that? And I actually came to you with this, and we kind of did a cost perspective on this and looked at it, and it would have been crazy expensive to make a box to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. So the backstory of that one, and once again, in this case, there is somebody making an adapter for this, but I haven't gotten enough information to confirm that it works, because
Okay.
from my understanding, personal experience actually is where this comes from to some
Okay.
degree. The root cause of what you're boiling down to is older style, where it's a 3-pin and a 2-pin for the TGV. So you have 3 pins that are for the sensor and 2 pins for the motor.
Okay.
The newer ones, they combine it into a single 5-pin motor and sensor combo. So, but what they did when Subaru did that is actually inverse the polarity of the signal, both on the motor and the sensor. So if you inverse it, you can turn off the light for the check engine light, because the sensor is sort of matched up with the motor and saying, open is this value. I expect the TGV, the actual butterfly, to be there. We're good. The problem is what's actually happening inside is that when the ECU detects that the valve, the butterfly, should be open, it's actually shut. And so the problem is, if that's actually happening, obviously when you have a shut butterfly, when you're trying to make power, that's counter to what you're trying to do here. So, and when you flip them, all you do is say, ECU, are you happy? Yes. But the problem is the butterfly is opposite of where it should be. And you can't just flip the motors, because then you have a polarity problem again. So I actually ran into this with my own swapped car on one of the iterations, OGR STI, years ago, when I tried to put in, the original setup was this 06 Euro STI. It functioned much like our 07 STI here.
Okay.
But it came with the other style TGVs. It came with a 3-pin and the 2 pins, so the older style. So when I put in a US ECU, it was throwing a check engine light for the butterflies. And so I tried every combination I could think of to get both the valves open and the ECU happy. At the end of the day, I couldn't get that paired up.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. So that is, but like I said, I will say that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
So my information at that time, I've learned a lot in the last decade plus since that was. But at the same time, from if you go back and you look into how the ECU is picking up the information and how it's opening and closing the valves, it kind of follows.
Yeah.
So the challenge right now is if you have the older style and you want to put TGVs in that use the other one, the conversion between 3 and 5 becomes a problem.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer for that. But at this point, the answer to the question is to stick with the TGV style that you currently have.
Yes.
Is my recommendation. And you can get, because I think most of the time it's like 04 to 06 STI guys that have side feed, they want top feed.
Exactly.
In that case, you buy the 02 to 05 model WRX and you've got top feed. They're the same thing. So generally speaking, that's how that scenario works. So, Subaru played some games on the polarity thing, unfortunately, to make it so we can't just put the IAG TGVs in everything.
Yep. And unfortunately, like, it would have taken, it could be done, but you're going to end up like having to build some little Adreno board or all sorts of wacky stuff to.
Right. At the end of the day, what's it worth, right?
Yes.
If there's another solution, I don't know.
Like, this little box is going to cost $1,000 by the time it's said and done to solve this one dumb problem. Like, this ain't the answer.
Right. It comes down to like when you're, talking about either IWire or IAG, definitely bigger scale IAG, but, it's either make a TGV setup for the other style.
Yep.
What's that going to cost from an R&D perspective? How many
Yep.
units are you going to sell? All that kind of business math that comes into play. But at the same time, from our perspective, it's like, okay, we can make a box, but how many of these things can we sell, and how much are they going to cost as a byproduct of how many of these things we can sell?
Exactly.
And the reality is, there are other solutions to the problem that are better than us trying to get involved.
Well, we need to talk about solutions.
Yes, I love solutions.
All right. Well, that's literally what your company's based on.
Yes.
For years, one of the easy solutions that existed when somebody was to swap in a 6-speed into a 5-speed car, you guys were selling DCCD Pro along with a really nice harness. Everything was just super plug and play and simple. So I would just send them there, go get that. This is the answer, right? If you had a WRX or a GC or something like that, it just worked out really well. And then recently, I saw you have some really trick new DCCD controllers shrouded in insane secrecy, some Area 51 shit. And this was why I hit you up originally. I'm like, I want to talk about this. Like, you need to come on the show. We need to talk about this DCCD controller, because DCCD is one of those things that I am in a constant state of talking about on here. So I'm excited about this, and I don't even know how to roll out the carpet, but you're building a DCCD controller. I want to know, like, what you're building here. Why is it different? I do see you have a bunch of interesting fitment on the site for a few different vehicles. This is exciting stuff. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and the reason, as we talked about, but the background is I wanted to be far enough along that when we talked about this, I could give more information because we had more concrete answers to things. And given that we're pretty close, we're doing pre-orders for 08 to 14, WRX and STI, important part on the STI.
Yep.
That now I can share more, which is great. So yeah, the if you want to start with the difference between what exists now and in the market versus what we have, number one to me is CAN bus integration. So our controllers will tie into the CAN bus network of any Subaru that has that feature. So in the past, if you needed throttle position, you got to go to tap it at the ECU, or you want, vehicle speed sensor, you got to go tap it somewhere, right? Well, on a CAN bus equipped car, all of the networking between the modules is already passing along all this information anyway. So we tie into that network, and we have access to anything that is sitting on that, any information that is there.
Yep.
So we can grab speed, we can grab steering angle, we can add throttle position, we can do manifold pressure, we can do, you name it, we can do individual wheel speed, we can do G sensors, we can do yaw rate.
Sick.
So we can do all of this provided your car still has these features.
Yes.
If it doesn't, it can eventually. I want to make sure on these things that we're catering initially to more of a car that has everything. And then eventually we will create it so that if you have a stripped down car, let's say you've got an 08 STI and you took out the ABS for some reason.
Yep.
Fine.
That's coming though.
We can pull up information. We can use the information that is there and get you the best control that you can. And then your factory DCCD can be replaced, or things like that. So number one, CAN bus integration. As along with that is that as a byproduct of CAN bus integration, it will replace the OEM STI unit. So you finally have an upgrade for your OEM unit, so you can get more features out of it. And we'll go through some of those things in a minute. But you can upgrade your factory unit to get infinitely more out of that box than what the factory would have originally intended, while retaining all of the OEM features. It doesn't cause a check engine light, doesn't cause any issues. You can use the factory switches. It will display to the STI gauge cluster. We actually changed how the STI cluster displays a little bit because we have additional features that don't exist. And then on top of that, we have app control. So let's say you have a car that you didn't originally come with DCCD. So let's say you have an 08 WRX.
Yep.
One option is to put in the center console, the STI, put in the SI drive control panel. But you don't have to. If you want to use the app to change settings, do that. It also functions as a display as well. So if you're a guy that's like, I just want it to be super clean and I don't want to add stuff, you don't have to do anything. Just have your phone up when you want to mess with it, open up the app and connect to it. The other awesome part about having the app connectivity to the phone is that we can update it on a consistent basis. So what we'll release first is phase one. You'll get, some basic maps. You get a street, you'll get an off-road, and you get a track map. You'll get, and then within those, you'll get user adjustment. You can make it more or less aggressive in the auto setting. Still manual settings if you want to set it to fully open or fully locked. You'll get those to start, but we'll continue to expand the map selections. So you'll get more features within that. So, take a street. We can add, are you seeing a lot of wet street? Are you seeing a lot of dry street? Are you, things we'll start asking questions about your car. Do you have, are you making a lot of horsepower? Because that changes how the center diff should behave, because it needs more lockup to offset the amount of torque you're throwing through the center diff.
Yep.
So we can do all sorts of, we'll start adding features, but we want to get it out to everybody first so that you have something to work with.
Yep.
And then we start getting feedback combined with what we're already intending on doing. And we can start adding things, adding more features to it, more settings, more options. Keeping in mind, number one, still plug and play, stupid simple install. And number two, we keep it extremely user-friendly. I think the biggest thing we found with DCCD, and you can probably attest to this given the number of podcast conversations you've had about DCCD, nobody knows how it works, which is totally fine. You don't need to know how it works. Our job is to present the information and let you play with it in a way that is easy to understand. You can hit a button and it just does what you want it to do. So instead of handing you an XY graph table and say, okay, like a tuner, I'm gonna adjust the lockup setting based on these parameters. We're gonna ask you questions, and when those questions get answered, we'll generate a map that will reflect what we expect that you'd probably want.
Good. It's so good. There are two people that come to mind right now that are absolute perfect candidates for this, and both of them are two different vehicles.
Love it.
Candidate one, Josh Halka, runs Grid Life with me. He's got
I know Josh. Yeah.
Okay.
He has one of the older units. Yeah, I'm familiar with Josh.
He's got a WRX. Okay.
Yep.
And with a STI 6-speed put in there, and he has had nothing but issues with
Yep.
ABS and stability control and wacky stuff. And
Yep.
he would immediately put that to work. He's now about
Well,
to add a bunch of diffs. Like he's got a bunch of stuff coming. He should be like in my brain, he's literally numero uno person that should get one of these units. If he's listening, you need to be talking to Brian. Okay.
yeah,
Two
definitely.
is Graham Gaylord, who is my
Yeah.
tuner. He's on a standalone. He
Perfect.
is currently looking at, because he is very pissed off at his ABS system right now, of
Sure.
pulling the OEM ABS system out. So the OEM DCCD is going to lose its mind.
Yeah.
So this would be the perfect way for him to have really good DCCD control without having to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we do have the ability to within Mtron to mess around with it, but
Sure.
we're doing that with mine currently. It's pretty rudimentary and it works because it's kind of an analog thing, but it definitely could be better. I'm excited about what you're doing, maybe being able to roll out to other things. So I've got a few questions about this.
Please.
So your control box, does it have like a yaw sensor and everything in it itself? Or is that something it's relying on other sensors for?
So it has so if you have CAN bus and you have those on board, we will use the OEM ones to do it. If you don't, we have onboard G sensor for both lateral and accelerometer. But what we found, I think, is that and some of this is we're going to learn along the way with everybody else as we go when we start getting feedback, because that's a big driver of this thing is we want to see what people do, and we want that information so we can make it better over time. And so what I think will probably end up being the case is that, in my estimation, probably other than yaw rate might be the exception to this, I think that the accelerometer and lateral G are a band-aid for lack of input. You need those because you need to know how much how much the car's pitching, but at the same time, steering angle, throttle, and brake kind of do that, especially steering angle. So I think steering angle is a critical component. So if you do not have a steering angle sensor, we need to find a way to add one to your car. If you've got a track car of some kind, you can honestly use, like, if you can fit a factory steering angle sensor on there, we can use that. But I think that the onboard G sensors will do great. Like, our onboard G sensors are really good. But I wouldn't want to do that without the input on something. If you're tracking it, if your street car, it doesn't really matter. It'll do great. But if you're really trying to fine tune this thing, I would encourage to add throttle position as well.
So are you looking at, I know you have your current application list, you're taking pre-orders for 08 to 14. You've got stuff, I looked a little further down on, different CAN bus options and stuff coming. And I think this is going to be by far the go-to solution for the 22 to 25 WRX crowd.
100%. I can't wait to get it in those.
This is going to be sick for them. But like, then you got guys like me, or maybe an old bug eye or something like that. Or we've like totally track slutted our cars out. Okay. We've ripped, I don't have a single piece of OEM wiring left in my car.
Sure.
So for somebody like me to then want to utilize something like this, are you looking at putting together some sort of maybe more like builder oriented style one that maybe you could take like motorsports CAN inputs and things? Because that, like, you got me lighting up now, because I'm like, man, I want to do all this cool shit, but I don't have one of those cars,
Yeah. So we certainly when we designed this, we knew that the CAN bus applications, by nature of in a much larger amount of data, there's more to do, just inherent to the thing.
Sure.
But we can replicate those things with analog cars. So the second fitment coming out will be 02 to 07 WRX. I'm literally working on that car right now.
Nice.
So we're still catering to analog cars. We know that's a big market. We're going to have to find ways to get the most out of them because it's a little different. So in those cars, you'll need to go manually grab up brake and throttle position, neutral position, tack, speed, but we're going to make those plug and play, say for TPS and neutral position, just because we don't have a good way to get them. But the brake position and speedo and tack, those are your, like, if you're looking at DCCD control, where the biggest influencers of the output are, it's those.
I'm gonna throw this out there. A lot of these guys are going standalone now.
Yep,
So they have motorsports output on that is going to give you throttle position and all that. It doesn't have steering angle, but that's something that should definitely be added, because you can standalone. So, like, even if you had some sort of we support all of these different steering angle sensors and these aftermarket ones, you could start getting things like that. And man, like, you could really ruin Subaru track cars around the planet if you were like this unit, because of what you can do with it. When we started talking, I think my brain spun in a different direction yours did. My brain was like, dude, it wouldn't matter where you were on this planet. You're going to be able to basically have a DCCD unit that'll work for you as long as you have the correct components. And that is exciting. And it's even more exciting for what you just said. You're like, instead of you saying, well, I need this amount of lock or whatever, and you're like going through and tuning it, you're going, I'm running a 200 treadwear tire. I have light aero. I make 600 horsepower. And this, I need a dry, tarmac map for this.
Boom. 100%.
Yep. Car wins this amount.
Yep, and you'll still get adjustability within that. So every auto map comes a default in the center. We call it 100%. It's basically 100% of the map, quote unquote. And then you can dial it down 50% or up 50%. So you will still if we give you something in the middle, you can still say, I'm going to make it less aggressive, which is going to make the car a little more tail happy. If you like that, great, dial it back.
Yep.
If you need it to be a little more sticky and planted, might push a little bit more in a corner, but you have the application that can handle that, you might dial it up just a little bit. Or you've got a looser surface. Like, those kinds of things can be within a map, still be adjusted to fine tune it where you want. So if you're on the track,
do that with a can knob.
Yes, exactly. Yes! And so we still have external controls.
Oh, that's gonna be so sick.
Yeah, we're catering to SI drive control panel that will function as it did from the factory. You have the old school button and roller switch; those will work too.
Sure.
And to your point about standalones, we have 2 CAN bus networks on board. So we can communicate with the OEM CAN bus, we can communicate with an aftermarket CAN bus, we can interchange between the two and translate them if need be. We can do all of that. The question is obviously programming in time and getting it right. Those are the things I'm going to have to. I just need everybody to be patient for. We'll get there, I promise. It's a little like when the access port comes out for a new car, and it's like, here's a base map, and then we'll get you some more stuff, I promise.
I think you're going to find the community is going to be very, very apt to share each other's data to help each other out. And I'm hoping, since it does have an app-based thing, you're going to be able to get logs back, mess with stuff.
But we can chat about that more.
Probably potential users that you may be watching more than others because they're doing certain things. Like, I could see you, like, let's say Josh Helko or myself or whatever, Graham, we have these units in. We just had a thing at Mid-Ohio, and maybe you can have us debrief a little bit and take a look at oh my God, this is giant what this could be. It's massive.
So to the point of the data logging side of it, this is a little bit like our conversation about hardwire kit.
Sure.
To call it a DCCD controller might be a little bit of an understatement. I don't want to oversell it yet, because it's not available. But long-term, bigger picture with this is definitely data logging is a huge component of what we think we can do with this. So we not only can data log the parameters that we're logging to make the controller do its thing, but we can data log anything that is available on the CAN network or that we tie into. So if you have a standalone and you want to aggregate the data one direction or the other, you can say, hey, we're going to send it to we're going to output via the CAN network what the DCCD kinds of things are doing and aggregate it with the rest of the data about the car.
Sure.
You could go that direction. You can also come our direction. So if you have an OEM car and you want to data log it, those are kinds of things that we're thinking about long run. So it will have USB-C. So we can put an SD card in it and data log it that way. We'll also be able to do it directly to your phone, depending on it. Data speeds are, kind of depends on, there's some X factor in there and how we would do this. But those are all part of the things that we care about, is the data logging to the point. So on board, you get, in theory, if you had a CAN bus equipped car and you are not using the TPS and speed and brake pedal and tach, those are external, those are available inputs to be utilized in other ways, assuming they're appropriate, kind of like a standalone,
Sure.
where they have certain signal types they need to be. We also have 2 standard analog inputs and we have 2 standard analog outputs. So let's just say you've got a stock car, but you have a digital dash, and you want to display what the center diff is doing. We have a 0 to 5 volt analog out that will reflect the current output of the center diff.
With our dash, we would be able to build. We'd be able to build a display if we wanted to show that 100%. on the dash, and it would be really easy because that's just a basic 1 to 5 volt.
Super simple. Yeah. 0 is 0%, 5 volt is 100%, and then sort of infinitely variable in between. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that we look at, and so its capability is designed initially, is intended as a DCCD controller, but a lot of the future additions to it are not just in making the maps better and more robust and more configurable, but additional features because the box is a tool.
Yes.
So we can start doing all sorts of
ways. Yeah. Really, what it's going to be is a CAN gateway that you, and I'm theorizing, like a CAN gateway. You literally could upload stuff to your phone and fire to wherever you needed to. 100%. Save it. Oh my God, this is cool, man. This is some cool stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah, we like I said, this is part of the challenge in getting it to this point is dealing with the complexities that we're talking about and making sure that when we deliver something that even though it's a start point, it's still really good and people are excited to have it. Yep. But I think the real value, especially the people who get it early, are going to see the growth over time of what it can do because it's just a start point. We're and like I said, from a data logging perspective, we have a ton of really cool ideas. Nice. That we think that people are going to be super stoked about as we develop it. So like, you've got maybe you're a guy that's like, I got a 15 STI and it's stage 2-ish or something, whatever. I've got flex fuel and a bigger turbo, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a DCCD controller isn't 100% a necessary component in this case.
Yeah.
But we can give you added control, which is just a fun toy, if nothing else.
Yep.
But on top of that, as you're playing with this car, you start unlocking all these other pieces that you can do alongside of DCCD. So it's kind of our toolkit to get communicating with you in the car.
So I think, because I was having some conversations with a lot of people about this when they first started showing me, like, hey, what do you think of this? They're like, it's crazy expensive. I'm like, I started poking around at it. This was before I talked to you. And I'm like, there's more to this than I think we understand. And I'm excited to finally get to talk to you about it because it makes sense. So is it a cheap unit? No, but it does so much 100% more. Not. So much more than just a DCCD controller.
Yes.
That is what I think it was for years. We were all scared of CAN. I got to be real.
Yes.
We were all scared shitless of CAN. And now it's becoming this insane tool now that are starting to unlock what we can do with it.
Yeah. That's the fun part that, I've been sitting here, it was a bit of a deterrent on the swap side because of the complexities involved. But when CAN is native to the vehicle, it's night and day, the kind of data that we have access to and the speed at which we have access to. Because I don't know if, uh, a little background. So like if you've got a non-CAN bus vehicle, in this case, like I said, we're going to do our best with those. But if you want to query the ECU for data, like an access port does, that's actually just a one-way street. So only one thing can do that at a time. So the access port, if you have it sitting on your OBD2 port and you've got like an O5 STI, you cannot put anything else on the access port and read OBD2 data. It doesn't work that way.
Yep.
It's a single lane communication. CAN does not work like that. CAN is a massive data being transported all over all of the time, and you can just sit on it and listen. The other cool part is it's conduit. It's a freeway. So if you want to add data stream to it, you can just add it, provided there's enough bandwidth still left in the network. So like it would be like, the analogy would be like you're on the freeway at 6 a.m. and there are no cars. Okay, how many cars can we add before we get gridlock?
Yep.
So you can use the factory to do that. The factory conduit to do that. So we have some really cool ideas for doing stuff like that. And we also have fun ideas for just, it's not all serious, right? We can have some fun too. So we have some sort of silly ideas for things that little Easter egg kind of things that we'll start to like, put in there to have a little fun with it as we go.
You can do all sorts of goofy stuff with it, though. It's incredible how much this could open everything up. I got to be real. I think Cobb is just now starting to play around with CAN stuff. Like they messed with a CAN gateway with the GTR, and now they're starting to play around with the Subarus. I think if they weren't dealing with 3-letter agencies so much, I think we would have had an access port version 4, and it probably would have been very CAN based.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And I think they got held up on that a little bit. I'm interested to see what the future brings, but I have a feeling lots of companies, not just you, are going to start playing with CAN in ways that are it's just going to blow our minds. I'm very excited at how your approach to this is, though. You have by far got me more excited than anything else I've heard yet.
Well, much appreciated. Yeah, messing with CAN networks has been something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. So I've had a lot of time to think about this. Mm-hmm. And as we've gotten further along with sort of the first, iteration of developing something that is, CAN related, we started to think about every time we kind of poke at something, we're like, oh, what else? And then we find like, oh, we could do this. So I have a list that it's a mile long of things that prospectively we could do. Once again, that will come back to what is feasible. So I try to couch a little of it because I don't want people to be like, it's going to do everything. It's going to do a lot. And we're going to find ways to make it really, really fun and exciting and, user friendly and all the things that make it,
have you
make it a fun thing to have in your car. But I also don't want to be like, it's, I don't know yet. We've got to dig more. We've
calling it a DCCD controller is not fair.
Yes, we've built it as the hardware components that are making this thing up are extremely robust. Like they're like in its current form, we're barely touching what it can do.
Yeah,
is really the way we built it.
So have you thought about and maybe something along the lines of what I'm envisioning in my head is I don't know how much streaming you do or whatever, but Elgato makes this thing called a Stream Deck. Okay. And then the Stream Deck gives you all these cool little macro buttons. All right. And every little button has a small screen on it and it can display all sorts of stuff. And then long story short, what they did is they kind of open sourced some of the app development stuff to let people mess with things. And then they allowed people to put their own things out there. So there's a whole community behind making, little applets essentially for this. I wonder if that might be something in the future, like the IWire CAN I mean, you guys are going to have to change the name. I got to be real, because it can't be IDCCD, because that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't do it. It doesn't do it any justice.
No.
Yeah.
So,
It's too narrow in scope, and we get that.
but how do you
But we
explain
wanted
it any
to
other way?
deliver it. We wanted to deliver it with a problem we know we needed to solve first.
You know what this
Um,
is going to end up being called, though, after a while? Like, us OGs won't call it this, but after people start really playing with it, and I see it ending up in a lot of cars doing a lot of different things, it's just going to get called the IWire. And
I
and,
love it.
and it, I mean, so you're going to have this, like, I could envision like an iWire app store, like that there's aftermarket people, people like screwing around and building their own stuff with this. That
Yeah.
isn't even like a store. It's just like, hey, if you built something really cool open source and want other people to try it, and it could be small things like, I don't know, you hit a button and all four of your windows go down, just stupid shit. There's so much weird stuff you can do with CAN.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like um, certainly to start, it'll be pretty closed environment because we want to make sure that we know we can deliver as promised. But
Yeah.
that doesn't preclude a long-term
That's long term,
vision
man.
of saying there's like an API,
Yeah.
right? Where you can
Years down the
where
road.
people can start messing. Yeah, people can start messing with it in some degree. Um, but we want to see initially, we want to see what people are asking for. So as we sort of develop these add-ons, we want to make sure it's really calculated so that when you get the end result, it's not buggy. It's not it's something that is, once again, I come back to a lot, is extremely user friendly, because we know that where we come from at the root of this whole thing is adjacent to it, which is wiring is scary. Technology is scary too, especially
Yep.
if it's presented to you in a way that is complex. People are just going to turn it off, right? They're just going to ignore it. So our job is to bridge those two gaps. Is one, make it stupid simple to install. We want to make sure that we deliver on that first. That is where we came from. We're
Absolutely.
not forgetting that. But number two, that is a parallel piece to that, is this, that when you interact with it, you don't need an owner's manual. You just, the prompts on the app do what you need to do.
Yes.
I noted a comment from somebody. Oh, Aaron, I know Aaron. He asked what kind of UI would be used for calibrating the DCCD, and to the point of that question is, we're going to ask you questions. I'm not going to get you back into the tables to define that, because the percentage of the user base that would even be able to find any value in adjusting a table that's relational between throttle position, speed, and steering angle is like nobody, right?
Yep. They're like 3 out of the few thousand.
Yeah. And the people that can do that and want to do that, there are products available for them, and they're great. They do that. Like, I get that. It also doesn't mean that we won't add a developer component to it at some point. That is, hey, I'm an expert. Let me play.
Yeah.
We haven't ruled that out.
A lot of those people also, like the people we're talking about, are probably people that we've already talked about. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, but if they're interested in this, which I'm telling you, after this gets out, people are going to be interested in this. They're going to want to help anyway. So, that's where I think this is going to go. And keeping these thoughts centralized may be the answer to making the sense of all the chaos. You know what I mean? I think
there's certainly distilling a lot of data down to something that's usable, and coming from people with a lot of experience in some of the intricate details of this whole thing. We've got our lens of the people that in our circle, but as we expand that circle, we're excited to hear what those people have to say, because the reality is, as we go and start looking at all this data, effectively that data in this, we live in 2025, data is endless. Like you could just compile data all day long.
Yep.
The reality is, what are you going to do with it?
Yep.
And that's where we find our value long run with this is if we have this data, we're going to try to provide something that doesn't require a lot of deep level understanding to do something with. We want to make sure that if we're taking all this data and aggregating it and then turning it around to something for a user, it's like it's easy to use and it's fun and you get an immediate feedback from it versus like I've got to dig into page 760 of a 900-page manual to like figure out how to use this thing.
You doing this and starting using this thing with DCCD is perfect for that, because it's this weird thing that, you know, almost a ton of people have no idea how it works. I think it's fantastic. I think it's the exact perfect place to start. Serapin Wolf has a perfect name for it. You should just call it
I see. I can't. I don't know what the trademarking on that one is. We'll have to go take a look.
He'll live.
Yeah.
Everything is open source in the IAG Thursday thing chat. So
yeah. Well, you know, it's in the IAG chat now. It belongs to
it belongs to the community. No, it belongs to the community.
Oh, it belongs to, okay, good. Well then, yes, then it is now free.
Yep, everything that ends up in the IAG chat is open source and free for everybody. That is how it works. That is free information. So I open the floor up for some questions. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to hit some of the hard ones here. Like Mark from Company 23 really wants to ask, can he get some of those custom blue zip ties separately? I mean, they are sick.
Yeah, those are hit me up. I'll get you some custom IWire blue zip ties, or buy a DCCD unit and they'll come with them. You can spend $950 on blue zip ties and get a free DCCD controller out of the deal.
I mean, that seems like a deal.
Yep.
So next thing, Serapin Wolf is versus some units that freak out and the yaw sensor sits a little off. Like, how are you guys gonna have some sort of like like mounting options or ways to like reset the sensor at 0 or anything like that? I know it can be kind of a pain in the ass with some of these units that you can't, like, if it isn't perfectly flat, it can kind of do some weird stuff.
Yeah, this comes back to the lateral G and accelerometer is challenging to work with for sure. So yes, there's a calibration tool. We're still kind of dealing with that on the analog side. That's why we're preferring, if possible, to use the onboard, because those are placed in flat areas and they work great, right? So yes, there is a challenge with that. We are actively working through. There is a calibration tool, but also there is a how is it mounted scenario, which is probably what he's getting at. So that we're going to have to deal with that. And we're, like I said, we're actively figuring that out. I don't have an exact answer to that question other than to say we understand it's an issue and we will make sure that it's right. The upside about our units compared to the ones in the past is they have specific mounting points. So, for example, 08 to 14 WRX mounts in the same way that it would mount in an 08 to 14 STI. So we have homes for them. Yep. 02 to 07 WRX mounts where it would in an STI, which is on the back of the glove box. So as long as it is mounted in the way that we intend, we should be able to get that set up so that it works pretty darn well.
Nice.
But like I said, always factory limitation. There's always some limitation with G sensors because of orientation and location, for that matter. Then there's, the other two units out there. One of them has it on board. One of them has it external. They both have their pros and cons. We decided to start with it on board, but we've also chatted about having a external one if we find there's certain limitations with certain cars, where we mount one, have one available to connect to the box, tie it to the CAN system, and then mount it in the center of the car if we find that, to get what we're really looking for, this might be something we have to decide to do.
So yeah, I had a feeling you guys were going to have that fairly sorted out. This is a much more thought out kit. Yeah, it just
Yeah, well, and
it's your
that's hence the
standards, you know what I
fitments,
mean?
right? Each has their own challenge.
Yep.
So we started with 08 to 14 because we have to do the CAN bus integration for those cars. 08 to 14 has a low speed network and a high speed network. Pretty much everything we're doing is on the high speed network, but we have some ideas for things we can do with the low speed network over time. And then 15 plus is going to be all high speed network. So that makes things a little bit easier,
Mhm.
but the CAN messaging is different. And then 22 plus is they go from the high speed network up to that point is 512 megabits. They go to 1 megabit. So there's infinitely more data and it comes faster and has some other things.
We can
So
have all sorts
we
of
have
fun
to
with those.
we have to set it up for each of those cars, but that also includes mounting and plug and play, not
Nice.
to mention the programming that is specific. So when you sign into the app and connect your box, you're picking a year and model, and that's for a particular reason. One of the other things that we're asking you for is what transmissions in the car. So if you have an O2WX and you've got an 07 STI trans, we ask you about that because 07 STI transmissions have different center diffs than 04 STIs.
Yep.
And so they behave a little differently. So over time, we will generate slightly different adjustments based on the transmission that you have because of the way the center diff locks up.
It's so good. Mark had another question. It is not
Yeah,
based on IDCCD, but I think it's a good
sure.
question. We should talk about it.
Yeah, I love it.
He's asking, can you dive into the importance of a grounding kit, why it's needed, and
Oh,
symptoms of needing it? And I think this is a great question. I wanted to make sure it wasn't missed.
yeah, we can talk about grounding all day if you want. I'm sure people will be thrilled and they'll be exiting the chat really quickly. But no, honestly, grounding is like is everything, especially on Subarus. So inherently, Subaru grounding is not good. Their design for the things that we as enthusiasts care about the most is ECU related bits. It just so happens that the ECU gets its ground from the intake manifold. But the intake manifold is sitting on top of TGVs, which is sitting top of a long block, which is attached to the car via rubber mounts. So inherently, there are flaws. Now, Subaru has done some things to mitigate that over time. Early on in maybe like 06, they added a little ground strap with a little white connector, like a single pin,
Yep.
and they'd mount it, they'd attach it up to where the boost control solenoid would sit. The later model cars got grounding straps on the bottom side for dual AVCS cars to the bottom of the block. So Subaru's done a few things to get there, but especially as those things wear or you make changes or you've made adjustments, the grounding gets worse. So our grounding kit takes all that into account.
Old bug eyes were the worst. The worst.
100%.
Oh my god.
100%.
So bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So we take into that into account. There are grounding kits that essentially run the cables in line. They're in like a series. But the problem with that is if you lose a link in the chain, they don't work very well. So we design ours with a single point. So the single point mounts to the chassis, and then there are 4 branches that come out to different points on the engine block, because if one lacks, the other one can pick up for it and make up for it because they come to a single point. Most importantly, it gets to the top of the intake manifold, which on metal manifold cars is where the engine ground sits, as we noted. Plastic manifold cars are a little different. They usually mount either the block or the TGV, but you still have an inherent flaw because you have rubber isolated parts from the big metal part where you're getting the ground, which is the chassis. So the other thing that adds to this is, TGVs. IAG makes a great TGV. But when you do that, they're usually finished with beautiful colors, or they're anodized, or they're,
Sure.
there's things that happen. When you do that, and then you add in aftermarket bolts, they're usually plated. The plating on those bolts is not generally very conductive. That's not always the case. And so what happens is you're reliant effectively on the bolt touching the TGV touching the block, and then the grounding point on the top of the intake manifold. So when you lose a link in that chain, you're going to have weird problems that are going to result in it. You could get all sorts of stuff. We've seen older cars where car won't start. We've seen immobilizer issues that present themselves with a check engine light for a mobilizer problem.
You know,
but it's
one
a
that I
grounding
see
issue.
a lot. It's your gas gauge in bug eyes. This was bad. Your gas gauge does weird stuff.
Yes.
Your gas gauge, it's like it'll go from a quarter tank to empty. Like it'll just drop.
So
instantly. Yeah, and like
I'm gonna sanity check it real quick.
Okay.
But it is in my, if I remember this correctly, I haven't looked at an O2WX diagram in a little bit. But actually, I've been back in it because I'm working on these analog cars. The fuel system. Yep, the fuel system is grounded by the intake manifold.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well,
so to the point.
You would see this, and like that's how I didn't have any money, and I wanted to mod my car way back in the day. And one of the things I ended up doing was a grounding kit, and I was astounded at how well this kind of junk grounding kit that I had worked. And I have preached the good word ever since, and ended up buying a nicer one later on and whatever. But like my headlights were brighter. I got better gas mileage. My gas gauge worked correctly again. Like it was unreal how much better of this stupid little thing. You know,
I'll bet you that if you dynoed it before and after, you would have gained a couple horsepower. Like I never made that claim as like a, scientific claim, but I think in those early GD era cars, you could I think a friend of mine, he used to own a shop way back when. He's in his 70s now. He's the guy that I go to when I'm running out of, like, I don't know what to do, because he's been working on these since brats were new. And so he used to own a shop, but basically he did that. He told me he did that at one point and saw like 10.
I believe
and
it.
So it wouldn't, from that era, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think you'd see that today, but I certainly think that those grounding components make a difference. You are talking about how efficient a spark plug is working or how efficiently fuel is injected. Those require grounds. If those are working better, your car is going to run better. It's that simple. Are you going to, can I measure that? We always treat it as a problem eliminator. It's for diagnosis. It is a variable elimination tool. But I would never say, if you have a problem, that I'll guarantee you, a stamp of approval, this is going to fix it. That's not how that works. But if you are having a strange problem, that's where I would start every time.
Especially on the older cars. Can't stress it enough. It is,
without a doubt.
It is ridiculous how many weird problems will go away if you just ground it, like do a grounding kit.
Just do a 100%. 100%.
Yeah, that was a great question. I saw that and I'm like, yeah, we definitely got to talk about that.
Yes.
We need to have we got to do the conversation, the big one, the one that everybody's waiting for. We got to do the NASIOC member numbers showdown.
Excellent.
Sweet. So we do this to all the OGs who come on, and you definitely qualify as that. So we basically compare NASIOC member numbers to see if you are lower than Dewey NASIOC member number, which I'm going to be astounded if you are not. But we're gonna check it out. You said you were a RS25, more of an RS25 guy, and trickled over into NASIOC. I was the same way, except I was an iClone.
Okay. Remind me, what was your number again?
All right. My number is 37078.
No, we're not. No.
What do you got?
Nope. 71415.
No way.
Yeah,
no
I told you I was super late to NASIOC. I was like, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, like, and the funny part is, I actually, because I knew you'd do this.
Yeah.
I actually had to go back and look at my original screen name, because back when I first started in NASIOC, I didn't know anything about cars.
Sure.
So I spent all my time in off topic getting banned all the time.
Yeah.
And so my first couple screen names got banned, and this is the oldest one I could find.
Okay.
I don't think I have a member number lower than that, but it is plausible, given this is now 20 years ago, that there is a member number of mine that is older than 71, but that's the one I could confirm, so I'm going to stick with that.
I'm astounded I
know. I
am
told you.
astounded. Oh, I
I
I
told
can't
you.
believe it. So like the I got my ass beat by the Cobb guys. Pretty bad.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got my ass beat by them. I was prepared to get crushed by you. I cannot believe that
No, yeah.
make
Like I
me feel
said,
old.
I came. I think. I mean, my certainly by the time I was on Nasdaq, that split had already occurred, and
Yeah.
that the
The
iClub split,
drama.
all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I know I came in quote unquote late,
Yeah.
but yeah, because like I said, I didn't. Everybody I met was on RS-25. They're all local to me, and that was their
That was a
that was their
hangout. Yeah,
hangout.
that's
So I
just
had no reason
yeah.
to go over until far later.
Yeah. When Nasiak kind of sucked everything in.
Yes, yeah,
There was a
eventually, yeah.
point where there was like everything that was Subaru oriented had to go through Nasiak.
Yes.
Even like IWSTI kind of stood up and had its own like interesting group, but the majority
Yeah,
of
that's
it was
right.
just links to Nasiak.
Nasdaq.
Yeah,
Yeah,
iClub was
100%.
links to Nasiak.
I,
RS-25, other than like the for sale section and some
yeah,
very GC oriented topics, were links to Nasiak.
yeah. I would say
It held its own better than the other ones.
I think RS-25 held their own for a long time, because it was so specific.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, certainly any of the other satellite forums around Nasdaq definitely had a.
It was gravity.
It was yeah. It was definitely, there was a link gravity toward Nasdaq at that time.
Awesome. So I mean, I you got me amped up, dude. I'm psyched. This actually it's better than what I thought this conversation was gonna be.
Wow, that's okay.
And
Well, I got a lot to
tell you
live up to
something,
now.
because now you've got my brain running in a million different directions,
Yeah.
and I guarantee I'm gonna
Okay.
be PMing you like every freaking 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, dude, we should
Do
do
it.
this. Um,
I'll add it to the list.
yeah, and I still think as soon as you get this thing rolling, things are working, it's doing you should open up kind of like an open source kind of like API side of this for
Yeah.
all us psychopaths to maybe co-develop stuff with you. Like
Sure.
like community oriented. You don't get the API unless you understand that anything that we do and we put out there, like they can't charge for it. I think you should be the center of that.
Yeah, we'd function as the hub for that. That in something like that might have to be you get access, but there's an entry fee
Sure.
to do that. Something like that,
Like a Cobb
'cause,
Pro Tour kind of
as
thing or something. That makes sense.
yeah, I definitely see that. As this goes, we may cross a threshold where there are features that people want that cross a line that we gotta say, hey, it's a couple extra bucks for X, Y, and Z,
Hey,
because the development cost for it, whatever. We're still sort of measuring that out and seeing
yeah.
what the response is. I know the immediate reaction from people is don't charge me extra for future stuff, but if we were to do that, we'd make sure it was worth your while.
I think what you'd end up I think people shouldn't be looking at this as much of as a finished product, but a platform.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
100%.
this as a platform. So like
100%.
to me, this feels like I'm buying a PC so then I can go do whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very, and I hope it like honestly, I'm gonna say this again, you're gonna end up having to change the name. Like you're gonna have to.
So here's what I'll tell you, just generally speaking, in regards to that. Remember that this is if you distill it to its base components, it is a module that has inputs and outputs, including one that is high current,
Yes.
potentially two. So it doesn't have to just be for DCCD. I'm not saying that it will be. I'm just,
Yeah.
when you think about it, that's how we think about it as well. This is the current vehicle, pun intended, that this platform runs through.
Yes.
But that can also change over time.
I think you're gonna have to get it moving as a DCCD controller.
Yes,
but I think
100%. It needs to solve a problem.
Yes, and it's oh my god, it's just this is some exciting stuff, dude. I hope Anybody who has listened to this, you should be amped. This is some serious, Subarus versus the world, hashtag Subarus to the top shit, where we all get together and like, I love the concept of all of us being able to share data together and all go faster as one unit too. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Love it.
um,
Yeah.
so this was great. Brian, I love having you on. I
Yeah.
got a feeling I'm going to end up dragging you on at another point, especially
Sure.
as this project continues. There's
Yeah.
going to have to be follow-up conversations on this. Or even if we just, these get into a few of these cars and we start messing with them, it'd be really cool to start having conversations with people that are using them. Plus you having this talk back and forth. It'd be really good. So pretty sure we're going to be doing that. But if people
Yeah,
want to get a
100%.
hold of you, how would they do that?
The best way to get a hold of us in general is to go to our website, IWireUSA.com, Instagram, I_wire, or email us info@IWireUSA.com. If one of my guys can't handle it, I will. So that's the best way to do it. And keep in mind, as we've talked about a lot about hardwire kits grounding and DCCD, a big chunk of what we do is replacement parts. So if you've got a busted connector, we sell you the replacement connector. And the fun part is if you let's say you've got an 05 WX and you have an alternator plug that's broken and the wires are broken or cut. If you put in 2005 WX when you check out, we will pigtail it to match your car. No one else does that. So we try to make it, once again, same thing. Wiring is scary. We want to make it as easy as humanly possible. So in those cases, we can really make it user friendly in that case and make it so you don't need diagrams. We just match up the colors.
Love it so much.
So yeah. And I'm seeing a comment from Mark. Redo harnesses. We have some ideas for upgraded replacement engine harnesses, so we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I would be remiss if I didn't thank Whitney, my wife, who was on here at one point. That was Whit Dog, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And appreciate all her help. The Webstar wouldn't have gotten started in 2016 without her. And so the development of everything product is huge thanks to Whitney. So if you
Whitney.
like the Webstore, thank Whitney.
Thanks, Whitney. Okay, either way, I need your comments. Please, we need... You guys are doing great on leaving comments on Spotify. I love it. What I'd like to see this week is, A, do you think the new DCCD controller / CAN integration is awesome? Or B, if you have a swap harness, I want to know what number you got. Let's see your swap harness. So let's get your swap harness number on. And yeah, we'll I think it's awesome. I'm so psyched about this product. So thanks for joining in, and we will catch you next time.